anything that we do that is matter trying to change matter. You want to get healthy, you got to change your diet, you got to exercise, you got to do certain things, you got to sleep better, you got to take vitamins, you got to get massage, you got to get acupuncture, chiropractic, you got to take drugs, whatever you got to do to get physically, chemically, and emotionally in balance. All of that takes time. So what we were seeing was that these things were happening in no time. In other words, the person was having an inner event that seemed to be as real as any external outer event. Now, the end product of an experience, in any experience we have, is called an emotion. That's the chemical feedback. The research on epigenetics, Alex, says that it's the environment that signals the gene. So if the environment signals the gene, and the end product of an experience from an environment is an emotion, I realized that these people were signaling genes ahead of their environment. Now, genes make proteins, and proteins are responsible for the structure and function of our bodies, and the expression of proteins really is the expression of life. So, in a sense, the person was making an inner experience so real that the brain and body didn't know the difference between the real life experience and the one that they were imagining. And we saw biological changes in their brain. We saw biological changes in their body, so we started doing thousands and thousands of brain scans, measuring people's brains before they came to an event, putting them through 4 days or 7 days of training, and then measuring their brain at the end of 4 or 7 days, and it was a different brain. The changes weren't just in their mind, they were in their brain. We were checking people's heart rate variability monitor to teach them how to sustain an elevated emotional state, not just for 5 minutes, but to be able to do it for 45 minutes on command, so that they could self-regulate in their life and slow down their reactions and responses to people and conditions in their life that would weaken them. Their fear, their anger, their hostility, their resentment, their impatience, all of those emotions take energy for the body, and the response is weakening the body. So we measured gene expression. We saw that people can change their genes in 4 days. We measured the immune response when people give up fear or impatience or resentment and start practicing elevated emotions like gratitude and appreciation and inspiration, love. How it strengthens the immune system. We saw that telomeres actually lengthen when people do the work properly. So we have great evidence in our scientific measurements, and some of the scientific measurements that we are doing right now is changing the course of history. We are proving to people right now how powerful they really are. We have such compelling evidence that advanced meditators are more resistant to viruses. We have the data to show that cancer cells do not do well in the plasma of advanced meditators. We know that advanced meditators' plasma will downregulate the genes for Alzheimer's. We have evidence to show that there are a host of very powerful biological changes that take place when people practice this simple formula of creating coherence in their brain and their heart. And when you have coherence in the brain and the heart, that's the door to so many possibilities. And we've been working pretty hard in demystifying the process. Yeah. You know, I think more than anything else, I think there's this feeling that we all have that never seems to go away. And it's an intuition, it's an instinct that tells us that there's more to reality than this dream. And I think that people come to this work for that feeling. And I think that we're greater than we think, more powerful than we know, more unlimited than we could ever dream. And my passion, my interest is to take science and combine quantum physics with neuroscience, with neuroendocrinology, with psychoneuroimmunology, with the epigenetics, electromagnetism, and I think science is that language to demystify the mystical and to build models of understanding from a theoretical and intellectual, knowledge-based, analytical perspective. But That knowledge void of experience is philosophy, but if you can teach people how to practically apply it, to personalize it, to demonstrate it, to initiate that knowledge and do something with it, if they can get their behaviors to match their intentions or their actions equal to their thoughts, if they get their mind and body working together, they're going to have an experience, right? And it turns out that learning information makes connections in the brain, but experience enriches those connections. Well, the moment those neurons string into place, there's a biological change that takes place in the brain. Another part of the brain makes a chemical, and that chemical is called an emotion. And the moment you feel successful, the moment you feel empowered, the moment you feel unlimited, I think now you're teaching your body chemically to understand what your mind is intellectually understood. So knowledge is for the mind and experience is for the body. And so what we learned in this whole process of transformation is that the more people understand what they're doing and why they're doing it, the how gets easier. So when the experience then causes them to embody the truth of that philosophy, it's no longer theoretical, it's experiential and it's visceral. So the experience then produces a strong emotion, and the emotion then is what is the information coming back to the body that begins to select and instruct new genes. And we've measured this on people that they could actually change their gene expression in 3 or 4 days by doing this. Now, if you've done it once, it means you got to be able to do it again, right? So anybody who's serious about their own personal growth and evolution, the replication of any experience will begin to both neurologically and chemically condition the mind and body to work as one. So when you've done something so many times that your body now knows how to do it better than your conscious mind, now it's innate in you, it's implicit, it's automatic, it's second nature, it's easy. You've become the knowledge, and in a sense you've mastered that knowledge and you're in a new state of being. So my interest is demystify that process so that people have within their reach all the tools to begin to apply it to their lives. And so I started my journey in 1986. I got run over by a truck in a triathlon and didn't have a whole lot of hope that I would ever walk again. I had fractured 6 vertebrae in my spine, and I had bone fragments on my spinal cord, and the spinal, one of the vertebrae where the neural arch was broken and pressing up against the cord. So you know, the prognosis was that I'd never walk again and I needed a radical surgery. And so I thought, my God, I'm not going anywhere or doing anything. I wonder if my mind could affect my body. And it worked. And then I started studying spontaneous remissions to see if other people have had the experience of turning around cancers and Parkinson's and rheumatoid arthritis and other disorders. And I interviewed hundreds and hundreds of people that actually did it. And I looked for the commonality. And once I understood what was common amongst them, and believe it or not, it wasn't diet. Believe it or not, it was primarily mind. And so that forced me to see if I could explain those in a scientific way and then be able to teach it to sick people to see if those same things, if they applied properly in the scientific language, could produce some amazing results, and then use it on well people. If you want to transform yourself from being in lack or poor to be successful, to turn a disease around, to fall in love, to start a new career, to have a mystical experience, will the formula be the same? And after a couple of years, we started noticing people stepping out of wheelchairs. We started noticing people going into remission, and that's when it got really exciting because, you know, I'm an empirical person, and I knew that something was happening with these people, not over the course of years. I'm talking about right before my eyes. Like, there's a person in a wheelchair from MS, multiple sclerosis, in a wheelchair for 10 years, step out of a wheelchair and start dancing around, and I have to tell you, I was more surprised than anybody.